me. Oh, mic is on. Okay. The mic is on. Good. Good. I think this is a good distance from the mic right there. Okay. And bienvenue la familia de la reina. Bienvenue. De nada, de nada. Eh? Let's see if our two guests are here. We have two new members. I'm looking and I don't see either one here yet. Not going to be a ceremony without them. Oh, ready? All right. The signal is on. We are beginning. Welcome, welcome one and all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi, a church that truly welcomes everyone to the sanctuary. I am your worship associate today, Django Sanders. We are honored to have you with us today, and also welcome to all those who have joined us online. We welcome you no matter what your political beliefs are, your sexual orientation, what gender you identify with, your race, ethnicity, or country of origin. It does not matter what religion you follow or if you do not follow a religion at all. It also is of no consequence what your socioeconomic status is, or your educational background, or the profession you have chosen to follow. None of that is as important as your authentic self, especially for those who face the cruelty, hatred, and judgment from others for simply being who you are. We also acknowledge the native tribes that have called this place their home. We are a church held together by a covenant of love and respect, without dogma or a set of beliefs. Ethics and integrity are the glue that bind us together as we search for what is true on our spiritual journey. So no matter if this is your first time here, or you've been coming for weeks, months, or years, welcome to our service. Today we have a wonderful speaker, Rob Allen, very talented young man who you will hear great things about later on in this service. And we have a few announcements. Today, actually, we have some very important things going on. We not only have a congregational meeting, we also have two new guests, two new members that are going to be inducted, although unfortunately I don't see them at the moment. But before we get to that, let me bring up Tess Cherry for the first announcement of the day.
Good morning. I am your RE coordinator here at U2C3, and I am always looking for help in the back, ideas, anything you wish to contribute to our wonderful and amazing kids in the back. So please just get a hold of me if you have any ideas or want to help.
Short and brief. Our second announcement is extremely important. We have a congregational meeting with 2 items, so I will bring up our president-elect, Kirk Newport, to tell you about that. And there's our second special inductee showing up, so we have a double header.
Good morning, everyone. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kirk Newport. I'm currently the president of the board. And in that role right now, I'm going to call the congregational meeting temporarily into order. And the purpose of this right now is just to determine that if we've established a quorum for the meeting. So Christi, do we have a quorum? We have a quorum. Okay, so we have a quorum. We're going to proceed with the meeting after the service. So I'm going to call the meeting into recess. And we will convene, maybe about 12:15. So get some coffee, relax a little bit. There are only 2 items on the agenda. One of them is very brief. That's the appointment of a member to the Endowment Fund Committee. The second one will be much longer. It's the proposed 2025 budget. So we do need for you to stay so we can proceed with the business of the church. Thank you very much.
No need for a round of applause for that. One more minor announcement before we have an introduction to visitors, that is. And that is that on, on Monday the 16th, For the Greater Good, we'll be meeting at the Harbin Center at the university from 6 to 7:30 to make sort of a radical plan for the induction of the President of the United States, so if they will have a counter plan to that. So that's happening on Monday the 16th from 6 to 7:30. All right, so that's that. And if you've been here for a while, you know that it is our custom in this church to offer visitors and newcomers a chance to introduce themselves if they are comfortable doing so. If it's your first time here or you just feel ready to say howdy after coming for a while, we invite you to stand up as you're able and raise your hand. We have Ren in the back who has a microphone who will come to you so that you can stand and speak so people online can hear you as well. Do we have any visitors bold enough to stand and say hello to this very welcoming congregation? Going once. Going perhaps twice. I do not see any hands raised, so Ren, you are welcome to sit back down. Thank you. All right. We're very happy to have you here, and our service will now begin.
Come, let us make bricks and burn them hard. We'll build a city with a tower for the world. Climb so we can reach anything we may propose. Anything at all. Build me up, tear me down like a skyscraper. Build me up and tear down these joining walls so they can't climb at all. So they can't climb at all. Yeah, I know why you tore it down that day. You thought if you got caught, we'd all go away. like a spoiled little baby who can't come out and play. You had your revenge. Build me up, tear me down like a skyscraper. Build me up and tear down these joining walls so they can't climb at all. So they can't climb at all. Madness reigns, paradise drowns, Babel's walls came crashing down, and the echoes roar, a story writ that was hardly understood. Never any good. Build me up, tear me down, like a skyscraper. Build me up and tear down these joining walls. They can't run at all, so they can't climb at all.
I have to say, this is a very well-attended service today, so I'm very impressed by the numbers.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
So if you haven't realized, the topic is punk music and activism, and we'll talk a little about that later on. So I have some opening words before we light our chalice. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. Elie Wiesel. Songs are the soul of movement. Martin Luther King Jr. And finally, politicians, singers, and preachers are all in the same business, using sound to move hearts and change minds. I'd like to bring up the Rincon children to light our chalice with Tess Cherry's help as I read these chalice lighting words of inspiration. A true patriot salutes the flag, but always makes sure it's flying over a nation that's not only free but fair, not only strong but just. History and reason summon us to embrace love and loyalty to a citizenship that seeks a better world, calls on those better angels, and fights for our better days. What really could be more patriotic than that? What in the end could be more American? By one of my favorites, John Meacham, historian. Please rise as you're willing and able to recite our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need to the end all souls shall live in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all we hold sacred. Please be seated. And now for a very exciting induction of 2 new members by our president, Kirk Newport.
As part of the leadership in this church, it is my distinct pleasure and great honor to invite new members to join our congregation. It is our responsibility to see that prospective new members meet the requirements set out in our bylaws when they first join. We might think of this as simply go to the class or join a focus group discussion, promise to give some money every month and sign the book. And while that is true, there is a little bit more to it than that. We are a non-covenantal faith, meaning that we are defined by our relationships with one another, how we treat one another, and well as how we as a congregation interact with the world. I would now like to invite the following new members to come forward, and that is Kelly Thompson, I see her over there, and Vaughn Westheimer, and I see him here. Here. Okay. We feel blessed to have each of them become part of our beloved community. I ask the congregation to stand as you are able and willing. If you agree, when I have finished reading this pledge, you will be prompted to say, "We so pledge," not yet. So we, the congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi, affectionately abbreviated as U2C3, invite you, Kelly and Vaughn, into our beloved community. As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious home. We welcome you as once you were welcomed ourselves. We offer you the gift of fellowship. Ours is a free fellowship, and we ask you to become co-creators with us on our mutual journey of discovery and service. We seek your ideas and your vision and your support, not only when you reach out in courage to us, but also when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals. And when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us fully bring into the spirit of love, which is the doctrine of this church. You are now full members of this congregation. As we celebrate in worship, work, and play, we pledge to lift up our voices, to search together for meaning and truth, and to share the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another. So let the whole congregation respond, "We so pledge." We so pledge. Yay. Okay, you may now be seated.
And once again, it's time for Tess Cherry to come up. Oh, no, the band's going to play first. Good, I'm glad to hear that. So some punk and activism. Activate us, please.
Friday night we'll be drinking Manischewitz, going out to terrorize Goyim. Stop and check it. Screwing Dick says as long as we're home by Saturday morning. 'Cause hey, we're the crew, born in anti-swastika tattoos. Oi, oi, we're the boys, the orthodox Hasidic OGOs. Orthopedic, Dr. Martin's waffle kicking through the gym. Reputation, came through intimidation, pacifism, no longer tradition. 'Cause hey, we're the crew, sporting anti-swastika tattoos. Oi, oi, we're the boys, the perfect ghetto boys in any crew. We got the right, psycho-material, we can't lose the fight. As we are the chosen ones, push the driven. We battle and we feast. We celebrate, we'll separate our milk plates from our meat. We're the bruise, sporting anti-swastika tattoos. Oi, oi, we're the boys, Orthodox Hasidic clergy. Oi, 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 we're the brews, sporting anti-swastika tattoos. Oi, oi, we're the boys, Orthodox Hasidic clergy. Oi, we're the blues, sporting anti-swastika tattoos. Oi, oi, we're the boys, Orthodox Hasidic OG. Oi.
I got my Manischewitz. And now let us bring back Miss Tess Cherry for a story for all ages. Thank you.
Good morning again. I'm Tess Cherry, your RE coordinator here at U2C3, and I will be reading a story that does have to do with activism, but not like that. Just so you know. Okay, our story today is called We Are Water Protectors by Carol Lindstrom. Water is the first medicine, Nokomis told me. We are from water. It nourished us inside our mother's bodies as it nourishes us here on Mother Earth. Water is sacred, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. The river's rhythm runs through my veins, run through my people's veins. My people talk of a black snake that will destroy the land, spoil the water, poison the plants and animals, wreck everything in its path. When my people first spoke of the black snake, they foretold that it wouldn't come for many, many years. Now, the black snake is here. Its venom burns the land, courses through the water, making it unfit to drink. Take courage! I must keep the black snake away from my village's water. I must rally my people together to stand for the water, to stand for the land, to stand as one against the black snake. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. It will not be easy. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged, the plants, trees, rivers, lakes, the earth. We are all related. Tears like waterfalls stream down, tracks down my face, tracks down my people's faces. Water has its own spirit, Nokomis told me. Water is alive. Water remembers our ancestors who came before us, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. We are stewards of the earth. Our spirits have not been broken. We are water protectors. We stand. The black snake is in for the fight of its life. The end. I would like to invite the children and the young at heart to join me in RE.
hush has fallen over the hallway. Meditation time. Do you march, protest, or demonstrate for justice for all its forms? This meditation invites us to the center of that belief system we stand for and calls forth the strength of solidarity. We are never alone in our resistance to oppression. Every step we take together is an expression of freedom, healing, and preciousness of life. That's by Amy Aco. So let me read a little meditation protocol. After our meditation reading, which I just read, in time of silence and when the music begins, all who would like to are invited to come up to our chalice table and light a candle representing a joy or a sorrow you may be holding in your heart today. Please come up one at a time using the middle aisle. And if you're with us online, please use the please use the chat feature to write a joy or a sorrow you may be feeling in your heart today. So in this meditation, think about how you protest and in what form it takes. That's how many people we have, short a candle. So all those candles are yours, Francis, symbolically. I just found out that Pat Suter had died, so I thought we'd just have a moment of thought for Pat Suter. All right, so I'd like to bring up our guest speaker, who is an extraordinary young man, if I may say so. Rob Allen is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist and musician, with a broad experience in music ranging from liturgical settings to dive bars. He has gained an appreciation for many styles and has become familiar with a handful of instruments. Some of these experiences include playing the trumpet with Genesis Drum and Bugle Corps, singing with local ska punk band, the Escape Tones, and serving as a chorister for St. Luke's United Methodist Church. He is now serving the congregation as both the church's choir director and member of the band since 2020. He thoroughly enjoys bringing music to you weekly, and we thoroughly enjoy hearing that music weekly. Come on up here, Rob Allen. Stop wasting our time. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming on out and joining us. Just some background on how this service came to be. Back in about 2021, when the band first started performing live for you all again, I think it was Arthur that joked about doing a punk rock service. So thank you, Arthur. So today I'm going to be discussing the punk movement, the history of the genre, and how punk became a foundation of modern popular music. For the meditation, though, I played a performance of The Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky. Instead of our usual silence, I did that instead of our usual silence. I wanted to give you a little bit extra of that music. So debuting on May 29th, 1913, this piece of music was for a ballet. And this changed the course of traditional Western music with wild experimentation. With Stravinsky's more recent prominence because of his ballets Firebird and Petrushka, Stravinsky was being lauded as a new up-and-comer in that space. But at that time in Western Europe, Russian culture was viewed as brutish and exotic. And with his next piece, strangely enough, he was going to prove them right about that. Drawing inspiration from ancient pagan myths from the steppes of Russia and Ukraine, he intended to give the critics something to write home about. In preparation for this performance, the musicians were bewildered by what was put in front of them. Strange clashing chord structures, frequent time signature changes. It made the piece feel really random and disjunct. And the musicians were even going up to the composer and saying, "Is this right? Are you sure that this is what you want me to play?" And he assured them, "Yes, that's exactly how I want this." So when we get to the actual premiere of this performance, many people were thinking that it was going to be more along the lines of his previous works, or like Tchaikovsky's music, Swan Lake, The Nutcracker, but that's not what the people were met with. They were met with bombastic, arrhythmic cacophonies from the brass, and strangely dressed performers on stage. The crowd quickly began to clamor among themselves, and eventually that turned into boos and hissing from the crowd, and they started throwing things at the musicians. After a while, fight broke out. Poured out in the street. Police were called to break things out. It was kind of a disaster. So attendees were furious that this foreigner had swindled them with such an abrasive showing of paganism and violence. But not everybody was put off by that. Other prominent composers, such as Claude Debussy, were in the audience for that performance. You might know him from The Clair de Lune, a lot of other famous works. And he hailed the performance as unorthodox, but he thought that the strange instrumentation techniques were really interesting. He used a lot of different sonic textures that were new to music at this time. But why am I talking about this 100 years later in a service about punk music? Well, this shattered the norms of the time. And this piece went on to inspire today's greats, John Williams and Hans Zimmer, who took a lot of inspiration from work like this to write things like Star Wars, other film scores. So again, why am I talking about this? Well, I couldn't help but talk about history's first mosh pit. All right, well, at the same time, music was undergoing a revolution here in the United States. During the turn of the century, traditional folk music was being blended with black spiritual music to form the blues. So this is a little family tree of musical genres. And I will say everything on this page is more interconnected than it even looks up here. So I'm going to boil all of this down. 50 years of rock and roll history. We had Robert Johnson, who went on down to the crossroad. We had B.B. King and Chuck Berry, who really reinvented this bluesy style into what we know today as rock and roll. And through the 60s, that formed into what we now know as rock and roll. And American rock and roll eventually got exported out to Great Britain, where we will set our next scene. So while some tremendously popular British rock bands like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin enjoyed a lot of commercial acclaim at this time, there was a darker genre appearing on the fridges. In 1970, Black Sabbath released their first self-titled album and introduced the world to metal. In the angst of the Cold War, a sense of dread and doom began to seep into music and pop culture, and people's dissatisfaction with the status quo was becoming evident through heavy nihilistic music. Following closely with this trend, bands like the Ramones and the Sex Pistols really started to change the game. They started leaning into more controversial themes in their music. Subversive, vulgar lyrics about anarchy certainly had the general populace clutching their pearls. At this time, we also start seeing the punk aesthetic starting to appear. In terms of the clothing, we see a lot of ripped jeans, usually rolled up at the bottoms, Doc Marten boots because they were sturdy, and black leather jackets became the trend. Many of these were also altered with patches and slogans that reflected their individual favorite groups. It should also be noted that androgyny became embraced with these trends, as both men and women generally wore the same clothing. So moving on a little bit further in time, this punk fashion ended up blending with black Jamaican culture. In the 1960s, the mod and hippie fashion was influenced by rude boy culture as it was being introduced into Great Britain. So the first of these bands, the Specials is who's shown here. A lot of these first bands started integrating this heavier punk music with their native island music, and it became known as two-tones. Bands integrating was also highly controversial at the time, as racism was rampant at the time in Great Britain. Many young white punks were sneaking away from their racist fathers to listen to reggae and rock steady with their Jamaican-born friends. They also started to adopt this rude boy look with the suspenders and the fedoras. Strangely enough, this is also where we get skinhead culture. Skinhead culture started off in Jamaica because they were shaving their heads instead of keeping the long locks. But when you hear that term, you probably instantly think of racism, but that's not how that movement started. While early skinhead bands were overtly anti-racist and anti-fascist, the movement was hijacked by an organization called the National Front, which was a far-right political party that gained influence in Britain around this time. It wasn't long before the punk movement started being associated with racial violence. But that was not without opposition at all. There were a lot of punks that were plenty angry with their culture being subverted by racism. One group that stands out in my mind is a group called Sharp. We have their logo right here. So that logo is actually used by a record company called Trojan Records, which is a Jamaican-British reggae record label. So they use that as a symbol of solidarity with black Brits. So moving on to the United States. Punk began gaining prominence in the United States in the mid-'80s, so around the same time that Sharp came out, that stands for Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. Going back, the hardcore scene took off in the 80s with bands like Black Flag. Considered one of the cornerstones of the genre, their particular brand of antagonism was revered by some and reviled by pretty much everybody else. In the early days of this band, they had a lot of trouble getting booked by venues. So they promoted everything on their own. Often these performances were in friends' houses, businesses that they had begged to have host a show, or even at the record label that they had started and eventually started living out of. These shows often got out of hand, and fights between the band and the crowd and police became a common fixture. Quote from their singer, Henry Rollins, "It's Black Flag versus the audience. If we play a song and the crowd didn't like it, they always took it out on the singer. And for me, that meant a lot of trips to the hospital to get stitched up." In 1984, the band released 2 albums, My War and Family Man, 2 of the most influential albums of the genre. The first was considered a major departure from previous established punk, with longer, grimier sounding tracks, and the second being a blend of both spoken word and instrumental tracks. This turned the genre on its head. Where most punk bands were playing faster and faster and faster, they slowed down their music. They wanted you to sit there and stew in whatever they were putting in front of you. Another quote from the band, guitarist Greg Ginn, he said, "We don't play to satisfy an audience. We play what we want them to hear. If this seems like a lot of things happen in the 60s, freedom," oh, I think I skipped something. I will start that quote over. We don't play to satisfy the audience. We play what we want them to hear. It seems like a lot of things that happened in the 60s, freedom, having an open attitude, are being replaced by a new Puritanism. Anti-commercialism is one of the most pervasive themes in their music and their persona. They didn't care about selling albums. They didn't want you coming to their shows, and they definitely didn't want you to think that they were cool. All right, so moving into the 90s, punk began to see its first commercial success with bands like Green Day and later Blink-182. This really flew in the face of the establishment punk because it was supposed to be a grassroots thing. But punks, as it went against the decades, the last few decades of the anti-consumerist rhetoric, the movement had been built around, but pop punk was, unfortunately for the grassroots guys, that was here to stay. Another rift formed in the community around one simple question. What actually is punk? What are we doing here? Is it about the look, the sound, the attitude, or was it about remaining true to the art? But at that, what does that even mean? Well, almost out of nowhere, that question was answered. It didn't matter anymore. Almost overnight, skate punk became huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. With the release of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater video games. It had been fully integrated into pop culture. Millions had been introduced to bands like the Dead Kennedys, Suicidal Tendencies, who had been staples of punk in the 80s, and newer bands like Goldfinger. Skate punk had arrived and gripped the imagination of America's youth. And later being shaped by the events of 9/11 and the War on Terror, bands like NoFX and Bad Religions turned their ire towards the government and the military-industrial complex. Throughout the 2000s, they released music primarily about the decaying state of the country and the corporate greed at its core. For the most part, that leads us to the present. There are still a few bands that are kind of floating around. Like Bad Religion, Rancid, and Blink-182, who are still touring today. But my personal favorite punk band actually just hung it up back in October. They played their last shows. And that felt like a real end of an era for me. But punk is not dead. Do I still have slides? Yeah. All right. We still see punk as a part of pop music, much like we see country western being integrated into rap. It didn't go anywhere, it just became commercialized. So we still have artists like Kenny Hoopla and Willow Smith who are releasing albums within the genre today. But usually where you hear it is going to be on TV, in movies, and in video games. All right, I'm going to wrap all this up for y'all today. My final thoughts on this subject, I really hope that you learned something about music and culture history. My research into this subject has given me a new perspective on the interconnected nature of music in general. Everything in this was a progression. Punk is a microcosm of music, fashion, and art that antagonizes and subverts the status quo. With the current state of society, there's a lot to push against these days. Now more than any other time in my life, we are going to have to stand up for what we believe against an establishment that openly relishes in the misery of the downtrodden that they've created. If anything today, I hope that I have given you the inspiration to be the grain of sand in somebody's eye. Go abrade your surroundings.
Thank you very much, Rob. That was wonderful. Thank you. What a guy. What a guy. Very happy to have him in our congregation. Now it's time we participate in our church community by giving and receiving the offering. If you are contributing to your pledge today, be sure to write pledge on your check or cash envelope. When music begins, the ushers will present the offering basket to you, and all you have to do is drop your offering in. No passing required. In addition to the basket, and for those joining us online and at home, we have several options for you to make your Sunday offering. Please use the links on screen to go through our website by PayPal or by using Vanco mobile app. Your offering, no matter how you make it, will be gratefully received. But before you make any kind of offering, I have a short story to tell you. There was a Jewish man who was an atheist, and he was asked by his company to move to a small Texas town. So he up and moved his wife and his son of 10 years old to a small Texas town. And after they settled in, it was time to find his child a school. So he asked around for what was the best possible school for his child to learn. And he was told the Catholic school was by far the best institution of learning. So with a lot of hesitation and trepidation, he agreed. He said, okay. But he told his son, now you tell me if you're getting indoctrinated. I want to know. Being an atheist is very important, so let me know if you're being indoctrinated. Well, the first couple of weeks went fine. He would ask the same question every day, how did it go at school? And his son would say, oh, great, Dad, I'm learning a lot of things. Okay. And then one day, his son came home and said, Dad, today I learned about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And his father said, hold on just one moment. There's only one God, and we don't believe in him. The offering will now be greatly received.
Do you think it's strange that there's a way? How are you looking now? You acting how you think. Pretend they're not the same as you. Do you think it's strange that there's a way? How are you looking now? You acting how you think. Pretend they're not the same as you. Do you know about her strength and conviction, or how she put all faith in religion? Do you take the time to really discover how little we know about each other? Keep on from saying anything, can't separate from everything, and all it's really easy. Crowding your paranoid family sound, not the friend you won't miss anyhow. That there's a way. How you looking, how you acting, how you think. Pretend they're not the same as you. That there's a way. How you looking, how you acting, how you think. Pretend they're not the same as you. Do you know about her strength and convictions, or how she put all faith in religion? Did we take the time to really discover how little we know about each other? Keep on from saying anything, can't separate from everything, and all it really means is you're one in the crowd and a paranoid fairies. You're not the friend we won't miss anyhow.
Before I extinguish the chalice, closing words. Don't just stand there, do something. You have the power to change things, you can stick it to the man. If you want to rock, you gotta break the rules. You gotta get mad at the man. Take it away. Be well, and see you next Sunday. Oh, absolutely. 15 minutes, and then we have a meeting, very important meeting, budget. Yes, and potluck. Budget, endowment, and potluck.
The Orthodox and Hasidic OGOs. Orthopedic, Dr. Martin's good for waffle making, kicking through the shin. Reputation gained through intimidation. Pacifism no longer tradition. Sports and anti-swastika tattoos. The Fairfax Ghetto Boys, skinhead Hebrews. We've got the mic. Psycho Meshuggah nuts. We can't lose the fight. And we are the chosen ones. Hood for driven. We battle, then we feast. We celebrate. We'll separate our milk plates from our meat. Sports and anti-swastika tattoos. We're the boys. Orthodox Hasidic OGOs. I'm a mess. I don't care. Kind of sitting at my desk. You can't bother me. Yeah, I'm far away from you. Got to get away. You can't ruin my day. You can't tell me what to do. You can't make me think I love you. Shooting in your arm. You can't hurt me. I'm on my way. The kind of leader. I'm not gonna read your book or take little squid. Getting light. Whores, you can't make me want. I got all the fish I need on the back of my boat. You can't take my heart when I'm here. Long from home for your cute love. I'm just a gas. Fix my motor. Turn on my videotape.
host, Marky of the Ramones, and this is my channel, Marky Ramones Punk Rock Blitzkrieg. Over 3 decades of classic punk, all in one place.
place where everyone can be right, even though you remain determined to be opposed. Evidence scribes of qualifications. It's where everyone has been and where everybody goes. So please try not to be impatient, for we all hate standing in line. And when the fun is good and fucked, you'll be there without a thought. And eternity, my friend, is a long fucking time. 'Cause there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. But baby, I'm amazed at the hate that you can send. And you painted my entire world, but I don't have the turpentine to clean what you have spoiled, and I won't forget it. One, two, three, four.
Hey ho, this is Marky Ramone on Sirius XM. In 2024, I played at clubs and rock festivals, venues all over the U.S. and beyond. You name it, we were there. And here's another exclusive cut from one of those live shows.
Testing,
1, 2, 3, 4.
testing, testing. If everybody can have a seat, we'll try to get started as soon as we possibly can. I think there's some people coming in. Go ahead and have, please go ahead and have a seat so we can get started. And then we can eat. Nick, are you going to be able to project this up there? All right, thank you. Okay, if you please have a seat and we'll get started, and then we can finish up and eat lunch. That would be very nice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reconvene the fall congregational meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Corpus Christi. We only have 2 items on the agenda. One of them should be very brief, and the other one maybe not so brief, but we'll work through it. Okay. Okay. Shh. Okay. The first item on the agenda is an appointment of a member to the Endowment Fund Committee. Very sad news. Diane Johnson has had to resign because at some point they will probably be leaving this year, but they're still here for now. And to replace Diane, there's been a nomination to appoint Michael Causey to replace Diane on the Endowment Fund Committee. Again, the Endowment Fund, the committee meets twice a year. They'll meet again in the spring and the fall, and they evaluate requests from the Endowment Fund, and they approve or disapprove requests as they see fit. Do I need to have a discussion? Do you have any other nominations for the Endowment Fund Committee? Okay, do we have any discussion about this nomination for the Endowment Fund Committee? Need a motion? Oh, okay, have a motion to appoint Michael Canatore Causey to the second fund? Okay. Ray was the first. Okay. Okay, those of you who are members should have received a pink card Yeah, if you're a member and have not received a pink card. And I need one. Here. Okay. Okay, so everybody got a card? Okay, can we proceed with the vote? Yes. Okay, all in favor of appointing Michael Cantatori to the Endowment Fund Committee? Just raise your card. Okay, put him down. Are there any opposed? Okay, I think we have a motion. It's been approved. Okay. Yeah, from what I can tell, it's unanimous. Okay, the second item on the agenda will probably take a little more time. Scott Cherry has been working a lot for the last couple months at least, maybe longer. And he's going to present to you, yes, he's put a lot of effort into this. He's going to present to you the proposed budget for 2025. And is there one of these? There was a pile of them. Does every table have one of these forms? There were several of them, and then they kind of disappeared. There was many copies. Where did they go? Here, you can have mine. Okay.
I just have one question. Is it balanced?
Scott will do all the discussion. Here, take mine. Take mine.
Hopefully, any questions you have will be moved by the time I get through talking.
Okay. All right, I'd like to invite Scott Cherry up here to discuss the proposed budget for 2025.
Okay. That thing back. Well, let me just start by, it's been an eventful, unusual year, as most of us know. I accepted the invitation to become treasurer, I believe in April, late April, May. Was approved after a board vote, and then was elected in July for a 2-year term. As I said, it's been a very eventful, unusual year. After a change in employee strategy early in the year, we've dealt with 9 months of volunteer bookkeeping and record keeping. Lauren Cantatori-Causey, Christi Stockman, James Sterling volunteered a lot. Tess worked for basically nothing for all of this period of time. They worked really hard to get everything in order as far as our expenses, our income, and whatever, but there's a period of time where there were some unclear records, and some stuff we can't find any record of. But it's overall good news. We have just hired a new employee. What's her name again? Dawn Robertson. She's going to be working 15 hours a week, and her main duties one of them will be to keep records and enter stuff in the computer, maintain receipts. And just a thing in passing, as the person with the checkbook, if you don't have a receipt, we're going to consider it a donation to the church. So you will need a receipt for any reimbursements for whatever you spend. Okay, and right there I'm going to pause on that and talk about, number one, the endowment fund. The endowment fund, we get quarterly reports, and the last quarterly report was September 30th. The balance at that time was $248,605. This figure fluctuates quarter to quarter, and the endowment fund dispersals for the year are determined by a average of the 4 quarterly reports. And then you are able to take 7% of that figure. In 2024, there was almost $14,000 available for the church to use from the endowment fund. The first one did roof repairs, it painted the kitchen, it did a lot of other minor stuff to the tune of just under, well, a little over $6,000. The remainder for the second half of the year was $7,071. That was, the endowment fund committee approved 2 things for that money. Number one is the painting, finishing the painting of the hall and the doorways. The second thing was a proposition for new chairs for the sanctuary. Some of the blue ones are a little thin in the bottom, as we'll say. Bottom line being is that approximately a little over $5,000 left after the painting is not enough to buy the chairs in the number that we need, and we buy them in a number that allows us some discounting. So the next endowment fund deal where the current committee has already stated that the intention is to find out the chair cost, and in the first endowment fund disbursement for 2025 to complete the purchase of the chairs. And this is from the endowment fund committee and approved by the board. Okay. And well, the act was a lot from the previous year and whatever. The act is the chairs, sorry, Debbie. ACT, that's the committee of making this place a better place. So that's in the future. The second thing I want to talk about is the mortgage the church still owes. I don't know if anybody's interested in the history of that. I can go over that if you wish. As of right now, the mortgage totals $85,352. 5 years ago, the mortgage of $170,000 was covered from the previous holders by a group of families who agreed to provide that amount of money as a no-interest loan for the church for a 10-year period. So that's basically, it's about half gone after 5 years, excuse me. The payments are, 3 families are still accepting or still have mortgage payments. The bulk of it goes to the Robin and John Kennedy, myself and my wife, and Michael and Lauren. We'll get into the mortgage totals a little bit when I talk about budget lines. But is there any questions about that? Okay. All right. And this is just a report on our bank balances. The savings account that we have at the bank is $5,629, so $5,629. There is a reserve account that was established some years ago by special donation from various people that is designated for a possible minister search and a sabbatical payment for future use. And by board decision previously, that is the only use it can be put to. That is $17,227, earning interest. Not much, but we're going to work on that. Now, here's the startling figure. The operating account as of yesterday afternoon was $41,114. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I actually get to the budget. That figure, last year we started with $13,000 as an operating account. Our goal this year is to start with $15,000 as just an operating budget ongoing. As expenses come in, money comes in. The balance of that operating account is the intention of the board to put it into the savings as a hedge against any future hardships and thin times that the church may have. Boy. Okay. Last year's budget is in front of you. It's 3 columns. There was the projected 2024 budget, which I urge you to take a look at, especially the second pages with the employee, building, and program cost. And notice all of the zeros on the projected budget. As yet, that budget was a deficit budget. And again, I apologize that there are records we just don't have. But that was the deficit budget, $2,000. On the actuals, which is what we did spend, that's where you see that $25,000 overage or surplus. On the contribution revenue, while we did not have as good a canvas as we've had in years past, we did have a successful canvas with approximately $74,000 pledged right now. The fundraising, well, was budgeted at $5,000 for the year. Actual was down, so I kept the same figure of $5,000, and hopefully we can come up with some new ideas to come up to that. Building usage fees went from $1,000 projected to $2,300 actual. So our total revenue is projected for $87,800, and that's down about $12,000 from projected last year, and down about $7,000 from actual this year. The first line on the second page, or excuse me, the labor expenses is where the real difference is. The first line is employee, which includes salary, tax, insurance, benefits. That was projected at $54,000 for 2024. As you know, that employee is no longer with us. But we still paid that employee, and catching up on benefits and every other thing, $26,000 for about 3.5 months service. You'll notice that that line is a 0 projected for the budget. The new administrative assistant, she's working starting this month, so there's a small amount for this year. That $16,794 is her projected salary plus the church's FICA, Social Security, Medicare contributions for the year. Okay? The RE director's wages, 0, because Lauren has accepted that job as a volunteer. Now, Teresa Cherry's assistant wages, we've paid her literally a pittance for 4 or 5 months. We're going to pay her, and again with the taxes, $6,678, an increase in hours and an increase in salary. She will be making the same $20 an hour that we're paying the administrative assistant, that we paid James Sterling for his work as a contractor. So it's a fair amount. Contract labor, James's is there in the actuals. I left $500 in that just in case that we need to have contract labor every now and then. We added $500 to the advertising budget at the suggestion of a board member, observing that we might have had a better pumpkin sale participation if we had managed to spread the word. AV equipment, $500 where it was 0. In other words, just for stuff that breaks. Accounting and membership, those are basically software cost. QuickBooks is what it is. Icon, it is what it is. Supplies, UUA dues, we left that at $100, yeah. The Vanco giving is easily deal. Bank service charges, just in case someone writes us a hot check. Credit card and ACH fees. Now that is something that I don't quite understand. The 2023 actuals had an $872 amount as to credit card and ACH fees. I have went over every bank statement and every receipt that I can come up with, and I can't find anything that we paid on ACH and credit card fees. I assume they may be in the Vanco bill. I don't know. There's no record of it. I left $800 in the budget just in case there's a surprise. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. Building repair and maintenance, we come out good this year, only spent $2,000 of a $4,500 budget. But I don't feel comfortable reducing that budget because you don't know what's going to break. The city services, water's going up, we know that. Electricity was a lot less than the projection, and I've cut that down a little bit. Grounds maintenance, I've added $500 in the budget just in case the lawnmower breaks or a shovel breaks or the weed eater breaks. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. Pest control, insurance was there. The next thing is the mortgage payments, and I do want to say this. It was budgeted at $10,000 last year. The actual payment owed is $12,650 to the three families. One of the families, John Kennedy and Robin Carter, accepted only $2,500 in the past year as their mortgage payment. I hope that we're just able to make the payment as is because you don't want to have mortgage money hanging around any longer than you need to. But that's one of the reasons that we have a surplus this year, is they took about $6,000 less than what they were owed. Pest control has been started up again. Estimate $560 for the quarterlies. Telephone, phone, and internet, $2,400. $2,100 was the actual figure. After a phone call to Grande, or Astound, I was very nice to them and said, we've got some other quotes. Next thing you know, they went from $190 a month down to $115 a month for the exact same service. So that's about a $900 savings on just by making a phone call. I also intend to look hard at the electricity bill. I think it's a little high, but we're going to investigate that. Next, you come down to the program expense. Well, let's see, sorry. The administrative assistant I've already talked about. The cleaning person has been cleaning with us for, I think, 7 or 8 years, and we're budgeting her a $10 a week raise. Okay. Now the program expenses. This is where we sort of get to act like our old selves again and spend money for the good of the church, so to speak. Child care. If we have functions, whatever they may be, we need child care. It's $400 in the budget. Music supplies for the band. Jim and Rob have been paying for sheet music out of their pocket for a couple of years. So we're going to offer them a $600 stipend or a budgetary item to get reimbursed. Fundraiser expenses, we doubled them. Compassionate Living has had a zero budget. We're giving it $200 to buy cards and stamps and whatever, if nothing else. Membership development, the same $200. RE staff volunteer development, $200. This is for any materials that are deemed necessary for this stuff. UUA doesn't give much of anything for free, in case nobody noticed. RE program materials. The minimum we've been paying Tess Cherry, she's been spending her own money to buy stories and stuff like this. It's got to stop. We've got to have something to cover this. RE program, all right, let's see. Next is social action. We're proposing to offer $600 for the year to Tacos Not Bombs. Also a $600 social action budget to continue with buying banners, just whatever's necessary to facilitate some volunteer action. Sunday speaker fees was a zero in the budget last year, and I think we spent about $600 regardless. $1,200 is the budget for Sunday speaker fees. The annual pledge drive, from $300 to $600 to be able to spend. This is just for, whatever's necessary. The deal of it is that if this money is here, and if it needs to be spent, it can be spent instead of out of some individual's pocket. And if it's not spent, then it's going to be there for next year's budget too. The bottom line being is that this budget is in the positive $5,098 that we are not budgeting to spend of the projected income. It is a balanced budget. Yes,
Are you open for questions?
sure,
Okay, so the Vanco mobile app, you have a fee on that?
of course.
It's free for churches.
Well, the Vanco has been taking approximately $50-something a month fee for its services.
It's free for churches. It is not.
It is not. I think we need to,
It is not. Call them. I have. Okay.
all I know is that the,
On their website, I just looked it up to make sure, but we'll check again, but the last time we both spoke with them, the answer was no.
the bottom line being is that we can't live without Vanco. If you look at the bank statements, and I've looked at 11 of them since all I have, the next one is December 31st. The money that comes in from Vanco is just extraordinary as far as it's being used. So we'll follow through on that, but again, it's a bargain, let's put it that way.
Another nonprofit, and we just got them to actually give us back some of the fees that we paid. We'll check again. We'll check again.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
Do we have numbers, I guess financial numbers for previous years?
For previous years?
Like years, I guess, prior to 2024?
I'm sure they're there, let's see. This is a copy of last year's meeting at this time. The actuals showing for 2023. Well, they don't bother totaling it up. Actuals, and it's only through August, January through August, so it's not a good figure. You can look at this if you wish, but I don't know. And I don't have those figures on hand.
They're in a Google Doc folder.
Okay. So,
Hey Scott, I was gonna say, on those chairs, weren't you saying like we have the money from the last year and then we're tying that over? Plus whatever.
we have approximately $5,000 left over in the endowment fund request for this second half of 2024. The committee made a decision, and I witnessed the committee, but I am not on it truly, or I don't have a vote. But this is the deal. We've been looking at chairs, and the number appears to be around 100 is what we need. And these chairs can be anywhere from as little as $50, $60, but that doesn't include a lot of expenses and getting them here and stuff like that. They can be as little, as much as 80. They can also be as much as 120, depending on what we decide to do. And it's one of those things, if you're gonna buy something people are gonna sit in, 52 days a year, you need to not buy a cheap product. So the decision has not been made on which chairs to buy, so we don't know what the future cost is. But the endowment committee has committed for the first half endowment fund request, the spring request, to hopefully have an answer by then and use that money to complete the purchase of the chairs. The other 5,000, well, we were late getting the request into UUA. That check will be hitting the 1st of January, because they only do them after a month in. We will keep that money in our savings account, and there will be documented, how much it actually is. And it'll be sitting there earning a little bit of interest until we actually use it.
Question?
Sure.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling question. Let's go to a vote.
Am I in charge? Okay, I'm not much on Roberts, but yes, at this point, if there's no more questions, Christi?
I make a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
Second.
How about a vote?
Who was second? Ray said it first.
Yep, it's accepted. Like I say, it's a pleasure.
Just make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor of adjournment? Okay.
We have you Kurt to thank for all our lawn care. I want to put out your lawn.
I've had help. Thank you. All right, I guess we're ready for lunch. So if you can help in any way, we'll eat as soon as we can get it ready. Thank you for coming, everybody.